guys, Winner Kills here, and welcome to a brand new deck profile. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my updated Earth Machine deck profile. Now that the one deck, 1 month series is over for this deck, I figured I'd go ahead and put out a brand new profile, sort of explaining everything in detail, all my card choices, and if I've made any changes since then, which I have. They're very small, subtle changes, but I'll explain why I made them when we get to that point. I also will probably be putting together a deck guide for this deck at some point, just to kind of, get all the Earth Machine content together, the one deck, 1 month, the guide, a deck profile, all that stuff. I'll be trying to get that video made up very soon. But before we get into the profile, I obviously want to mention a quick shout out to Imperium Duelist. If you guys are interested in picking up amazing playmats like this one I'm using here, deck boxes like this one here or this one here, which is actually available on their site, feel free to check them out at the link below, and you can use my discount code WinnerKillsSound to save 10% off your entire order. And if you guys are shopping on TCG Player, please do not forget to use the affiliate link I have to the site down in the description below. All my videos, if you guys shop and check out using that link, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel. If you want videos like this early, consider becoming a member of the channel today. So let's go ahead and do our quick deck profile here, and we'll get started with the monsters. Alright, so now if you actually want to know why I'm playing the cards that I'm playing, this is the part of the video where I'll be explaining that. So the first 3 cards we have here in the Infinitrack engine is 3 copies of Infinitrack Harvester. This is basically like the Stratos of the deck. When it is normal or special summoned, it can add an Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand. Obviously one of your good starter cards, but it also has another neat effect where it says, you can target one other machine monster on the field. The levels of both that monster and this card become the combined original levels of those 2 monsters until the end of this turn. So this card does help you set up some really cool rank 9 plays. Most of the time it's going to be rank 9 plays. You can also use it to set up rank 6 plays. Even rank 7 plays, I guess, if you play rank 7s in your extra deck. So not only is the search effect great, but its level manipulation effect is really, really cool. Harvester is also another card in the deck, or not Harvester, Anchor Drill is another card in the deck that will offer level manipulation, which is good to access some of the better monsters in our extra deck. Then we have 3 Brutal Dozer, a card, if I'm being totally honest, I wish I didn't have to play 3 of, but playing 3 of this card is so important because it makes one of the cards we're playing later on a much better card, because you do have to reveal 3, and it's really nice to be able to reveal 3 of the same card, especially Brutal Dozer, in terms of consistency and getting your engine started and resolving this card's effect turn 1. This is also another card that you don't really want to resolve on your turn 3 because it does lock you into Earth Machines when you resolve its effect, and its effect is if it's special summoned from the hand, you can special summon an Infinitrack monster from your deck in defense position, except itself, but negate its effects. And then you can summon it from your hand, much like you can all the other level 5 Infinitracks. They summon themselves by attributing 1 Earth Machine monster as cost. So that effect is really nice, though, because even if your Earth Machine monster is face down, you can still tribute it, so you don't have to worry about cards like Book of Moon or Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, because it's tributing as part of cost. So it can tribute set monsters for those that are unaware. So Dozer is, like, I guess you could call like the heart and soul of the deck. A lot of people refer to this deck as Dozer Control for that reason. I think Earth Machine is just a better name, or you could call it Machina, Infinitrack, Trains. Any of those names will work, just personal preference, I guess. But this card is great because it's just a 1 card rank 5, because you're going to be summoning another level 5 Infinitrack from the deck, obviously, with its effect. And the card you're going to be summoning most of the time is going to be Infinitrack Trencher, which I'm playing 2 copies of. This guy, basically, again, same summoning condition as the Brutal Dozer, tributing an Earth Machine monster. Doesn't have an on-field effect, though. He does have a graveyard effect that says you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 level 5 or lower Infinitrack monster in your grave as cost. Except itself, special summon that monster in defense position. So it's basically like a Monster Reborn for Infinitracks, level 5 or lower, that is, but there are really only level 5 or lower Infinitracks in the game right now, so that isn't really a huge issue. I guess it'd be nice if you could revive, you know, the Xyz monsters too with it, but those can revive themselves in a bit of a different way. So, and the reason why I play 2 is because, yes, you're always going to be able to tutor the 1 out off of Dozer, assuming it resolves, obviously. But having a second copy in the deck is really good for longevity. The deck does like to grind a little bit, and having a second copy of Trencher is nice. Just because the only way you can recycle your banished cards is by seeing Overdrive, and that can be a little slow sometimes. So you want to have a second copy to be able to search out at any given point. Now, the next 2 cards that we're running here for the Infinitrack engine are 2 copies of Anchor Drill. This is a change that I made since the previous list I showed off, I think in episode 3 of One Deck One Month. I think I was maining, I think I was maining the Twin Twisters. I've since dropped those Twin Twisters, and one of those slots opened up for was an Anchor Drill. The main reason I opened up, you know, the slot for an Anchor Drill is because this card really helps you make plays out of nothing sometimes. And I also find that resolving his effect paired with Dozer is just a lot more resource efficient. It's really nice. And it plays around some of the hand traps that the deck loses to, like DD Crow and Skullmeister, which is really nice. But if it's normal or special summon, you can special summon an Earth Machine monster from your hand in defense position, except Infinitrack Anchor Drill, and then you can target one other machine monster you control. The levels of both that monster and this card become the combined original levels of those 2 monsters until the end of this turn. And another reason why I'm playing 2 is because turn 3, this card is a really powerful normal summon. Not only to get maybe a Harvester on board, but really, you know, Ancient Gearbox, any other level 5 Infinitrack, could be Dozer, just so long as you're not resolving its effect. And then you can go into Enter Blastnir, you can go into Earth Slicer, you can go into Dingirsu, you can go into Beatrice if you're playing it. Like, this card opens up a lot of powerful plays turn 3, and like I said, even resource-efficient plays turn 1, if you're normal summoning Drill to bring out the Dozer, because that will trigger Dozer's effect because he was special summoned from the hand. And, the reason why that's nice in the normal combo is that you actually won't have to use Trencher, because the extra Infinitrack that would be brought back by Trencher is already on the field in the form of Drill. So that's why I like playing multiple. Yes, you can search this card off of Ancient Gearbox, but that's assuming you have like the most optimal setup every time, which in most cases you aren't. So like being able to like increase the chance of drawing this card is nice, and also having another copy is very, very nice too. That way you can just kind of like search it out off of a heavy forward instead of trying to like set up a Trencher play to bring this card back, which I find sometimes to be way more convenient than trying to set up a graveyard play, which is hard sometimes to do if you don't have access to a card like Fortress. And then the last Infinitrack monster is Infinitrack Tunneler. This is basically Pot of Avarice for Earth Machines. Again, same summoning condition as all the other level 5 Earth Machines or Infinitrack monsters, but it says you can banish this card from your grave. This is shuffle, then target 5 Earth Machine monsters in your graveyard as cost, and shuffle them into the deck, then draw 2. So it does target for cost, but the nice thing about this is if they DD Crow one of those targets for Tunneler, this will still resolve because it says shuffle them into the deck, which is different than saying shuffle all 5 into the deck. So even if you lose one of the targets due to an Ice Dragon's Prison or due to a DD Crow, your Tunneler will still resolve, and you'll still be able to draw those 2 cards, which a lot of people like to Ash this card because the deck does like to draw into its interruptions, which is fine. It's not really such a problem in some builds, you know, as it is in others, because some builds play more traps, or very trap heavy. Other builds are very trap light, and they're much more susceptible to having a harder time if this gets Ash versus like a trap heavy deck where they've probably already opened their traps in their opening hand, because you really only need 1 card to do your entire combo. Everything else at that point is just bonus. So that's the Infinitrack engine. This is pretty standard across the board. Most people will be playing these ratios except for maybe the double drill, but I love these ratios here. Yeah, the only thing, like I said, that's different is the double drill, but I think the double drill is perfectly fine. Now we're moving into the Machina engine, which is one of the better engines next to the Infinitrack engines. This engine is nuts. Machina Metal Cruncher. This card can clog sometimes, but like it's a blessing when you see this card and it's your only starter. because sometimes you'll be drawing to those hands of like all these Infinitrack monsters, and then you'll see a card like this as your like last draw, and it just actually lets you play the game. This card also paired with like Fortress can open up some absolutely incredible combos, because this card is much different than like your Heavy Ford and your Harvester and your Dozer, because this card can grab literally any monster in your deck so long as it's a machine monster. You can normal summon it while you control no face-up cards, and you'll have to tribute, which is great. And then its attack becomes 1800. If this card is normal or special summon, you can reveal 3 Earth Machine monsters from your deck, then your opponent randomly adds one of them to your hand, and the rest get shuffled back in. So this is another one of your starter cards, and this card can be very, very explosive, again, if paired with something like Harvester in the hand already, or if it's paired with Fortress already. It just really changes what you're going to be adding off of it. If you open this and Harvester, you're going to reveal double Fortress and a Dozer, and if you get the Fortress, you can do a much powerful play, much more powerful play, and if you get the Dozer, it's just business as usual, resolving Dozer normal combo. And then we have 2 copies of Fortress. I think 2 copies of Fortress is the move. This card really lets you play through quite a bit of interruptions, especially Nibiru. If you got Nibiru'd and you have a Fortress play live, you know, you can just summon the Fortress, resolve a Dozer, get more monsters in play. This card is really, really great. Not to mention, this card, if it's destroyed by battle, mandatory effect can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. That comes up quite a bit, and if it's targeted by an opponent's monster effect, you get to look at their hand and discard a card from it. So this card can be a roadblock quite a bit for a lot of decks. Then, of course, the one Machina Citadel. Everybody always tries to play around this card. Everybody's always afraid of this card. For good reason. This card is absolutely nuts. Cannot be normal summon set. Must be special summoned by a card effect. Quick effect, you can target one machine monster you control as cost. Destroy that monster and all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to it. And if a face-up Earth Machine monster control is except itself is destroyed by battle or card effect, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it. So it's basically like a Raigeki that can reborn itself anytime one of your Earth Machine monsters is destroyed by battle or card effect. And a lot of decks will just fold under this card because their only real method of removal sometimes might be just destruction via card effect. And then this card just comes out and you just wipe their board with it. And a lot of decks can't recover. For example, like the Dragon Link deck, if you hit them, you know, mid combo with the Citadel, or you have something like an Overdrive to summon this out mid combo, like this is going to hurt quite a bit, and will either severely slow them down or, like, you know, end their turn completely. Then the last engine here, I guess one of the second to last engine technically, is the train engine. We have 2 heavy freight train Derek Crane and the 1 bullet. This is the other card that I added in place of those Twin Twisters. Derek Crane is so good. Not only can it chain block your monsters, and what I mean by that is, like, let's say when you normal summon Infinitrack Harvester, the effect this card has, it says, if an Earth Machine monster or monsters is normal or special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, but its original attack and defense become halved. So what happens if you were to normal summon your Harvester? Basically, since you have turn player priority, you can normal summon Harvester, and if the summon is fine, you can chain Derek Crane to that to make it so they cannot ash your Harvester, because Chain Link 2 will then become Derek Crane, and unless they have something that, you know, targets, they can't hit this card with an ash, which is actually really strong, because sometimes protecting your Ballista, or your Harvester, or your Machina Metal Cruncher with a Derek Crane is the difference from being able to play and having your turn ended, like, immediately. And not to mention, opening any of these cards in your normal combo makes the end board much better, because you're able to end on number 81. Because the problem this deck has is that, like, it doesn't have any way to end on, like, in-engine interruption. You're not, like, summoning an Xyz monster that is like an Omni Negate or a fusion monster like Mechaba. You're relying on traps and your overall, like, grind game ability that you have, and then the sheer hand advantage that you will build will allow for a very explosive turn 3, which will oftentimes you know, lead in winning the game, or result in winning the game. So, like, if you can see a level 10 in your opening hand, whether it be the Derek Crane or the Bullet, you'll be able to end on number 81, which is a solid interruption. You'll get a pop and basically make one of your monsters unaffected by card effects, which some decks can't out, just because at 4,000 defense, a lot of decks can't get over that. Then the last, I guess, engine is the Ancient Gear engine. We're displaying 1 Ancient Gearbox. This card helps to net more advantage to the hand, because when it's added from the deck or graveyard to the hand, you can add an Earth Machine monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, which there's quite a few targets in the deck. You have Drill, Tunneler, and Trencher are all cards that this card can grab for you, which is really nice. And then the last 3 monsters is the 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. These could be any hand trap you want. Could be Skullmeister, could be Bell, which I find is actually not a bad hand trap, but I think Ash, being as generic as it is, works the best in here. I don't like to play a ton of hand traps in this deck because if you're drawing a hand trap, it means you're not seeing an engine piece, which I know isn't always like the best way to look at it, but in terms of consistency, I think just playing the 3 hand traps is the best way to go. So that's it for the main deck monsters. The spells, we don't have too many. We just have 3 heavy forward. This is basically like tanky for Infinitracks. When activated, you get to add an Infinitrack. And that has 2 other effects that you can use. You can target a Machina exceeds monster control and either change its battle position, or you can attach this card to it as material, which is great because you can give Ding, you can give Zeus, you can give Dora more materials, which sometimes is just busted, or you can give your River Storm or Earth Slicer, you just revive back a material to be able to search or pop a card, which is great. So this card is like kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's just such an incredible card. Like if it's left on the field, some people will kind of think like, oh, it just searches on activation, like the other effects it has like aren't really too much of a threat. But when it gives that Dora like that 3rd material to start off your next turn, because a lot of times you're going to be using your Dora on your end phase to get the bullet effect, you'll be using it hopefully, ideally on your opponent's turn to protect something and pop a card, and then on your turn, if it sticks around, of course, it won't have any materials left. So if you have a leftover heavy forward, you can attach it to it, or maybe the turn before, if you had heavy forward in play, it'd be a good thing to attach it to that Dora so it has that 3rd material. So when it comes back to your turn, you can protect a normal summon. You can protect any one of your key cards from getting interrupted, which is really nice. Then 3 of, I think, the best card in the entire deck. It is Machina Redeployment. This card nets huge, crazy combos when it resolves. Discard a card to add 2 Machina monsters with different names, or you can discard a Machina card. You can add 2 Machina cards with different names, except Machina Redeployment. So if you have Overdrive or a Fortress in hand or a Citadel in hand, you can pitch the Citadel, pitch the Overdrive, pitch the Cruncher, pitch the Fortress, search that copy of Overdrive, and then add anything else. Could be a Cruncher if you don't have one, or a Fortress if you already have a Cruncher. But a lot of times, resolving this card alone will end on your normal combo, plus you'll be able to rip a card out of the opponent's hand, and there's tons of combos that stem from this. Aerosol TCG, I believe, actually just uploaded a video dedicated to showing a bunch of combos with this card alone, so I'll leave a link to that in the description for you guys to check out. Aerosol TCG is the guy I got this deck from, so again, shoutouts to him for showing this deck to me. But yeah, Redeployment's crazy, no doubt, definitely a 3 of. And then I play 2 Urgent Schedule. This is like a going second card in the deck. It's really amazing, and I also find like it's a decent card to set turn 1 too. It'll basically keep you from getting OTK'd if they happen to break through your board, which sometimes isn't that much. It might be a Knuckle and pass, or Knuckle set 1 and 2 pass. So having a card like this to kind of hold off OTKs is really, really nice. If it's sent to the graveyard as a set card, you get to add a level 10 Earth Machine from your deck to your hand, or a level 10 Machine monster, period, which is great, so you can search out your Dare Cranes, or your Bullets, or your Citadel. This card is kind of like an Overdrive in some cases. If you're in that situation where, like, you need to block damage, you can summon, like, Citadel, and you can summon, like, any other level 4 or lower, Infinitrack monster. And then if they destroy the Citadel first, and then they destroy the other monster, that will trigger your Citadel engrave to bring back to threaten a board wipe, to hopefully stop them from, attacking into the battle phase and OTKing. And if you are also going, like, into a board, and you draw this off of, like, an Overdrive or a Tunneler, it just gives you so much more gas to work with, to be able to hopefully break a board and 2 it out of level 10 to try to go for the OTK. So those are the spells. And then the traps. The trap lineup is very important in this deck since it is a control deck, a mid-range deck, whatever you want to call it. We have 3 Solemn Strike. This card is nuts, negating inherent summon, stopping monster effects. Very, very potent card. You bait a negation on their side of the field, and then you just respond with a strike, and then it clears that problem pretty much 100% of the time. And then you have Torrential Tribute. As one of my friends put it, everybody's worried about counting to 5 summons, but they're not just worried about just summoning in general. So a lot of people will just run into this card head first. And if you have Strike Torrential, Having Strike Torrential is a great way to break a lot of the best boards in the game right now, even like the Dragon Link board. You know, if they have a Savage Dragon, and you Torrential Tribute, whether it's on your turn or something, and they go to negate with Savage, you just chain Strike. They can't respond unless they have a spell speed 3 or higher, and then their whole board just gets wiped, which is really, really strong. So definitely love those 6 traps, would not cut them. And then we have 2 Machina Overdrive. The only reason I'm not playing 3 is because this card is not like a truly standalone trap card, much like these 6 cards are. These cards can be used regardless whatever I have on my field. If I have no monsters, I can use these cards regardless, and to stop my opponent. This card I really can't. It can make bad hands worse, but it is still a crucial card to play in the deck. I would not go any lower than 2. If anything, I might play a Foolish Burial Goods, or maybe 2 copies. I haven't really had the time to test it, but maybe someone else will test it. I might get around to testing it in the future, but I think Overdrive is great. Basically, target a machine monster you control as cost. Special summon 1 Machina monster with their name from your hand or deck, and if you do, destroy that targeted monster. And a cool thing is, you can actually use a card that's been affected by Dora, so it's unaffected by card effects, or it has the Infinitrack Goliath underneath it, and you can still resolve the Overdrive, because it will try to resolve as much as possible. You can still target cards that are unaffected by card effects, since it is targeting as part of a cost and not an effect, which is great. And then even if that monster isn't destroyed, it doesn't matter, because again, the card tries to resolve as much as possible, still summoning out a Cruncher from the deck, and then go Chainlink 1 Cruncher, Chainlink 2 Citadel, since a monster on your field was destroyed. If you destroyed something, or targeted something that can be destroyed, there's so many things this card can do. And then if it's in the graveyard, you can target 3 of your machine monsters that are banished or in your graveyard, and shuffle them into the deck to draw 1. And it's absolutely incredible. You can only use 1 effect per turn, but even if this card is in the graveyard the same turn it was sent there, you can still use the recycle effect, which is really nice. So that's why I think Foolish Burial Goods wouldn't be half bad. So that is the entire main deck. Pretty standard, I would say, for the most part, maybe except for a few cards. And now we'll go into the extra deck, where we have 3 copies of Infinitrack Goliath. We abuse this Link one quite a bit, and I think abuse is like the perfect way to put it, because we just summon so many of these in a turn. All it takes is 1 non-Link Infinitrack monster. You can use this card to load up the graveyard for your tunneler to be able to draw into more cards, extenders, or interruptions, whatever you want. And then it says if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Xyz monster you control, attach this card to that monster as material. And you can only use this effective Infinitrack Goliath once per turn. And Xyz monster, whose original type is Machine, that has this card as material, gains the effect to not be able to be destroyed by card effect, which is huge. Not only that, but again, you have your Infinitrack Xyz, which can revive themselves from the grave by attributing a machine link you control as cost. So they come out onto the field, and obviously, what good are most Xyz monsters without materials? Well, that's where this card comes in clutch, by reattaching itself to that monster to give it the material it needs to be able to resolve its effect, whether you're searching off of the River Stormer or you're destroying a card off of your Earth Slicer. And it gives the protection to cards like Ding, which not necessarily that it needs it, or giving protection to a card like Zeus, which is also sometimes crazy, a Zeus that can't be destroyed by card effects. Or a Dora that just can't be destroyed by card effects, or a Juggernaut Leave. You can kind of see how this card can become very, very powerful. Then we have 1 Ancient Gear Ballista. We have Ancient Gear Box in the main deck, and obviously we need a way to search it, and if this card is Link summoned, we can add an Ancient Gear monster from your deck to your hand, or you can add Gear Town, but we're mainly adding, obviously, the Ancient Gear Box with this. And says you can target 1 spell trap you control and 1 face-up monster your opponent controls as cost. Destroy that card you control, and if you do, change that opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0 until the end of this turn. So this can kind of open up OTKs in some spots where you might not have been able to OTK by dropping a monster to 0/0 and just going over it with a Dora at 6,000 after you've already burned for 2k. And then I play the double Anger Knuckle. I think double Anger Knuckle is so important in the deck, mainly because this card is worded in such a way where you can only use 1 of its effects per turn and only once that turn. And a lot of times when you're trying to close out game, you'll need to resolve this card's first effect, which is a quick effect. During the main phase, you can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target a level 10 machine monster in your graveyard as cost, special summon this card in defense position, or special summon that card in defense but negate its effects. So that's really important because it can bring back a level 10 in order to be able to use for Nixie summon of your Gustav Max, which will eventually burn for 2,000, and then going into Juggernaut Leave for the other 6,000 damage that you need to put on. So a lot of times, if you resolve the graveyard effect of him to send any card from your hand or field to the grave to bring him back, you can't use that other effect. So that's where having another copy in the extra deck just to bring out to use its first effect is very, very useful and will help you win games in situations that you literally wouldn't be able to win otherwise without having a second copy. And that's why I really like playing it. Then we have one Infinitrack River Stormer. This card is crazy. It's the best rank 5 in the deck. You're making this with your Dozer. Dozers are 1 card, rank 5. 2 level 5 monsters. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can attach that monster to this card as material. And Earth Slicer also has that effect as well. What its first effect is, you can detach material from this card to take 1 Earth Machine monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. So this card can still be useful under Draw and Lock, which is nice because you can just dump a bullet, or you can dump a Citadel directly to the grave, or a Fortress even. And this says, if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 1 Machine Link monster as cost, special summon this card in defense, and then most likely you're going to be attributing your Goliath, which will attach to this card as material, making it so it can be destroyed by card effects, and also giving you the material to search or send with. Then next I play 1 Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger, the beautiful ulti here. Look at how gorgeous it looks. But I play this card mainly to slap over top of your River Stormer, because a lot of times he's going to come out in defense, and if you don't have heavy forward, you can't change his battle position, and it just kind of sits there when it could be doing 2,600 piercing damage, which is a lot of times this is going to help you end games quicker, because this deck sometimes, as strange as it sounds, playing a train engine, has a hard time closing out games, and this card definitely helps that issue a ton. I've gone to this card several times, and I do not regret playing it. I wouldn't say it's like necessary to play, but it's definitely very helpful and wanted. Then we have 1 Dingirsu, the only rank 8 I'm playing. I used to play number 90 way back, but I don't think it's really needed, because it's mainly to play around Nibiru, but given the field and given the cards you have in play, a lot of times you won't need to go over the 5 summons really to kind of close out game in turn 3. But this card is a very oppressive card. It's such a strong card to go into, very aggressive card as well to go into turn 3 off of your Ancient Gearbox and your your Anchor Drill. Because that's how you're making this card. With Anchor Drill, Targeting Box, they both become level 8. And then you're going into this to either attach a card or non-target send a card the opponent controls, which is absolutely nuts. Then we have 2 rank 9s. We have 1 Phantom Fortress Enter Blathnir and 1 Infinitrack Earth Slicer Enter Blathnir. It can be made turn 1 during the redeployment combo, where you just add Fortress and Cruncher and go through that whole combo. But it says once per turn you can detach a card from this card, then activate one of these effects. Banish a card your opponent controls, non-targeting. Banish a random card from your opponent's hand. Banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up. So just non-targeting banishing is just insane, especially for Arding Dragoon. Then you have this card, can detach any number of materials and target that many cards in the field to destroy them. Interesting, you can destroy your own cards too, which is great because you can trigger Citadel to bring him back for more damage, or just to get him onto the field for your opponent's turn. And if it's in your grave, again, same thing as River Stormer, it contribute a Machine Link to special summon itself back in defense. Very offensive card. Then we have our rank 10 package, which is just consisting of Gustav Max, Super Dora, and Juggernaut Lieb. This is basically a defensive card, turn 1 walling up with it, and these are your OTK packages. Detach to burn for 2k, detach to gain 2,000 attack and defense permanently to go up to 6,000, and it can attack monsters your opponent controls up to the number of materials this card has +1. So if they have an open field full of attack position monsters, you can a lot of times just game people right there, especially if you've already burned for 2,000. And then, if you're not locked into Earth Machines, you can slap a Zeus right on top of this in main phase 2, and it'll at least have 2 materials most of the time. And speaking of Zeus, we're playing 1 copy. No, this isn't necessary. Budget options, I mean, obviously there's no other card quite like Zeus. You could play a second copy of Ding. You could play Beatrice. You could play Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. You could play Draco Sack. You could play some rank 7s. You could play Mountain Smasher if you want. You could play another Dora. It's entirely up to you. But this card, if you can get your hands on it, I would recommend playing it in the extra deck 100%. Then the side deck, I won't spend too much time here because it is kind of local specific, but I'm just playing 3 Lancia, 2 Droll Knock because you can kill through the Droll most of the time. And then we have 3 Dark Ruler No More. A lot of times, you know, you don't care too much about not being able to OTK. Ideally, this would probably be Droplet, but Dark Ruler No More is a perfect substitute for it. Those 2 copies of Twin Twister that used to be in the main. And then moving forward, personal tech of mine. Well, I guess I got the idea to play it from Larry. Larry Summon, my Discord, shout outs to him. But this says basically non-fusionary, neither player can fusion summon. Also good against the Invoked and Shaddoll strategies too. Insane card a lot of the times. You just lose instantly to Winda. And this card says no to Winda, says no to Mechaba, says no to a lot of fusions. And it's better than D-Barrier because this deck, again, cannot really OTK all the time. It's very consistent as to how quickly it can OTK. So having a continuous version of D-Barrier essentially for like one of the more threatening summoning mechanics, non-fusionary, is very great. But if you don't want to play it, you could play a third anti-spell, like I'm playing 2 right now, or you can play D-Barrier. So the double anti-spell and the Imperial Order. I think these cards are really good in the side deck. You can even go so far as to maybe main them if you want. You don't play a lot of spells in the main deck, and you can out these cards using Anger Knuckle in the grave by sending this card or sending this card to be able to keep playing and activating your spells if you need to. So that is it for the side deck, and that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask as well. And leave a like if you enjoyed, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Going to be continuing playing this deck as time goes on. Yeah, I really love it. It's a great control strategy. I think it's really underrated, and I'm glad to see, you know, more people have been playing it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. And as always, Winner Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, a huge shout out goes to all of the YouTube members supporting this channel. And of course, a special shout out goes to our Divine Level channel member, Cadillacs84. Thank you, man, so much, as always, for your continued and very generous support of the channel.